Okay, now one of my favorite elixirs is the Bone Builder's elixir. And I come from a very deep athletic and martial arts background. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know about my background is that the way I got into living foods, the way I got into superfood nutrition was via injuries to my knees. I've had 2 knee surgeries, and that caused me to get really focused in on the joints, the musculature, rehabilitation, repairing and regenerating muscle cells and muscle tissue, and bones and bone density. And the more I got into it, the more I realized what an epidemic in the world bone density really is. There's all kinds of amazing studies and discoveries that have been made on this subject, and this elixir is actually going to address the fundamental issues behind bone density and what happens when people lose mineralization to their bones and their skeletal structure, essentially, and how to regenerate the bones and how to redensify the bones with the correct minerals and the correct hormone stimulation without hormone replacement therapy. So this recipe is near and dear to my heart. Let's jump into it. The very first thing that I want to talk about is our decocted tea. And we're using 3 specific herbs that are, a lot of people may not know about these herbs. Some people, if you've been in the herbal game for a while, you've probably heard about them. It's nettle leaf, it's Oatstraw, and it's Horsetail. These 3 herbs in particular, Nettles, for example, I just want to put this out there, Nettles has hormonal effects. It has androgenic effects on our testosterone and on progesterone for women. Basically our youthening or our androgenic growth hormones, something that you can look in further. But hormones is a very important part of the bone density picture. And then beyond that, all 3 of these herbs are very high in a mineral called silica. Now, we hear about calcium, and calcium is like the bedrock, literally, of our bone density. You need to have calcium. You need to take calcium supplements. You need milk because it causes you to have more calcium in your body, and therefore you're better off for it. Now, this is all the research on this has come to light to show us that calcium is not the only game in town, and actually there's other minerals that are far more important than calcium for bone density. Silica appears to be the number one mineral in combination with magnesium that increases bone density. So that's why we have Nettles, Oatstraw, and Horsetail as our tea base. Now, our other ingredients, our herbal ingredients, the first one is Eucommia. I had mentioned in a previous video that Eucommia is very specific to the joints, to the ligaments, to the muscle tissue, and also has effects on bone density. So that's why we're using Eucommia. And then we're also using other herbs like pine pollen. Pine pollen is a very interesting herb that increases androgenic empowerment, meaning that it actually has biological testosterone in it, precursors for natural testosterone. This is not the same as doing hormone replacement therapy, taking some testosterone pill, or getting testosterone injections, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about bioavailable precursors that help our body produce testosterone. This is also helpful for women. Women do need a certain amount of testosterone to stay in youthful balance and to produce the right amounts of progesterone, estrogen, DHEA, thyroid stimulating hormone, so on and so forth. So this is important for both male and females. So we have some pine pollen in there, and then we also have maca root that we added in here. Maca actually has been shown to help elevate levels of testosterone and progesterone depending on what's needed, and obviously if you're a man or a woman, it's going to have a propensity in one of those 2 directions. And then beyond that, we added raw chocolate. Raw chocolate, again, makes an incredible delivery system, but it also makes for good bone density. If you've ever read the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I mean the original book, the Roald Dahl book that we might have grown up with, on page 16, when Willy Wonka first encounters the Oompa Loompas in Oompa Loompa Land. Actually, I don't think that's what it's called. I can't remember. It's been a couple years since I read that book. But anyways, he first encounters the Oompa Loompas, and he finds out that they're obsessed about cacao beans. Remember, cacao beans is where all chocolate comes from. And there's a mention in that book, oddly enough, that the Oompa Loompas had bright white teeth. I always found that interesting. I don't know what that was about, but it was in the book, right? And then on further scientific analysis on chocolate and cacao, it turns out that it has the exact minerals, with the exception of silica, that build bone density, like phosphorus, like zinc, and like manganese, iron, and magnesium. So the magnesium and silica combination together is what's going to create profound bone density, teeth protection. Your teeth, by the way, are an extension of your entire bone matrix. They're living bones that are connected to the rest of your bone matrix, just so you know. So let's jump into the recipe. We're just gonna throw these ingredients in here. And then, as always, we have our other supporting cast, our sweetener, and our oil, or our fat agent. Now, in this ingredient, or in these ingredients, you can either use coconut oil as your saturated fat, coconut milk powder, or ghee butter. Ghee butter, by the way, is very important for bone density and for teeth health because it contains two very important things. Well, basically contains all the fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K2. Vitamin K2, by the way, was referenced in Dr. Weston Price's famous dental work, where he went all around the world and studied indigenous cultures and found out that all these indigenous and aboriginal cultures had one thing in common. They did not have any signs of cavitations, of dental decay. They didn't have root canals. They didn't have mercury amalgam fillings. They didn't have braces or wisdom tooth extractions or any of this kind of crazy stuff that goes on in the dental industry. They just ate a natural diet. But he found out that one of the vitamins, vitamin K2, or what he called activator X, was indispensable for bone health, bone density. So that's why we add in the ghee to this, if you like ghee. If not, then just add in the coconut oil. That'll be great. And then, choose your sweetener. I'm going to use raw organic honey. You could use organic maple syrup. You can use stevia. You can use xylitol. You can use anything you really like. And we're going to add 1 drop, actually like 2 drops to this recipe. When you're dealing with a lot of herbs, sometimes you like to add in a little bit of those flavor agents. If you're not used to the herbal flavor, the combinations of herbs, that can be quite bitter. So we'll put in 2 drops, 1 and 2. That's all we need. And then let's add in our Horsetail, Nettles, and Oatstraw tea base. Okay, here we are. Let's see how it turned out. Right on point, right on target. Amazing. You're gonna love this one. Enjoy.